Hey guys, today I'm filming a first impression and follow-up on the Neutrogena Hydra Boost Foundation. Now this is not a new foundation by any means. I'm pretty sure this came out at the beginning of 2017, but a couple months back I did receive a coupon from Ulta where I could get one of these foundations for free with any purchase. So of course I could not resist that, and I decided that I wanted to do a first impression for you guys, seeing how this foundation works on oily skin. And before we get into the video, I just wanted to comment on the state of my mouth. I am having some skin irritation and a lot of dryness around my mouth. I'm trying a bunch of different things to heal it, and it's just taking some time. So I'm sorry if it looks so hideous and gross. Once I put my foundation on over top, it will help a lot. I'm very self-conscious about it, but I really needed to get this video filmed, so I hope you guys won't be too disgusted by it. So jumping into the details on this foundation. So this is available wherever Neutrogena is sold, and on the Ulta website it retails for $14.99. And this foundation only comes in 10 shades, which is not very good. I'm not even sure if this is going to match me, and I have the lightest shade, number 10, Classic Ivory, so we'll see in the demo if it actually matches my skin well. And there is one deep shade that looks really deep and beautiful, but there's only one. There needs to be a lot more deep shades, and 10 is decent, but that should be like where you start, and then you definitely need to expand. So hopefully Neutrogena will come out with more shades in this foundation range. And I'm going to read you the claims from the Ulta website. It says the Neutrogena Hydration Infused Weightless Water Gel Hydra Boost Hydrating Tint plumps skin and boosts hydration while providing natural looking coverage. It moisturizes and plumps skin for 24 hours, and your skin will look more radiant and smooth over time. It makes your skin look better even when you're not wearing makeup. It is oil-free, non-comedogenic, weightless, no makeup feel, and it is non-greasy. So we'll see. It doesn't have any claims at all about coverage or lasting power. It's saying it moisturizes and plumps skin for 24 hours, but I'm not sure if that's saying that this foundation will wear for a full 24 hours or just that the skincare benefits will work for 24 hours. And to show you the packaging, it looks just like the Clinique Beyond Perfecting foundation, where it has the large doe foot applicator. And I know a lot of people find this to be very unhygienic because you're putting it on your face and putting it back in the tube. But then I can't remember who it was. It was either It's Me Hunter or Kaylee Bout. I think it was one of them made a comment that people are so disgusted by putting something like this on their face, and yet that's the exact same thing you do with concealer that has a doe foot applicator. You put it under your eye, then back in the tube, which I think makes perfect sense. And if you wash your skin and you're only using this on you, big freaking deal. So I'm just going to go ahead and dot it right on to my skin. And then of course, as with all of my first impression and follow-ups, I'm going to be applying the foundation on one side with my Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge, and on the other side I'm going to be applying it with the Sigma F80 Flat Top Kabuki brush. So I am just going to start dotting this on my skin, and I'm just going to do half of my face at a time. So this is definitely looking a little bit peachy compared to my warm undertone, but we'll see how it looks when it's all blended out. Right now it does feel very cooling on the skin, which is kind of interesting. I like that. It feels very cooling and refreshing. So now I'm just going to go in with my damp sponge to blend it out. And it's blending super easily, which is really nice. I really enjoy when I don't have to really tug to get my foundation blended. So here is one layer with the sponge versus no foundation. So this gave a slight tint and an evenness to my skin, but I can see all of my redness, all of my freckles. It gave, I don't even think I can say light coverage right now. So I didn't have high hopes for the coverage, but we'll see if it's buildable. So now I'm going to go on this side and dot it on and then blend it out with my brush. So taking my Sigma F80, I am just going to press this into my skin. I'm just going to press instead of buff for now, because usually that will help give me the most coverage. So here is one layer of foundation applied with a sponge versus one layer applied with a brush. For some reason, I feel like the side with the sponge looks like it covered a little bit better than the brush. Do you guys see that? I mean, neither one of them have good coverage right now, but that's interesting. Okay, so I will go in with a second layer to see if it is buildable. So here's 2 layers of foundation applied with the sponge versus 1 layer applied with a brush. I guess it gave a little bit more color. Like, this side of my face looks lighter than this side, and the shade looks like it matches decently well, but it doesn't look like it actually gave more coverage, just like it changed the color a bit. So that's kind of frustrating. I mean, it blends out so quickly and easily with the sponge, which I love, but yeah, coverage it's not happening for me. So I am going to do a second layer on this side with the brush and see how that looks. So here's 2 layers of foundations applied with the sponge versus 2 layers of foundation applied with a brush. For some reason, I feel like this side of my face looks lighter than this side. I'm not sure if it's just what I'm seeing now, or if it looks like that on camera to you guys as well. But when I look up close, I can see that this side has more coverage. It is covering up more of my redness and more of my freckles. So the brush side does help to build up the coverage, but this is light coverage to me, like just light coverage. And I'm sure if I went in and spot concealed and everything, it would be okay, but you guys know I have a lot of redness and I like to completely cover it up, so this is a bit disappointing for me. I was hoping at least I'd be able to get to medium, but honestly, based on what I consider to be light, medium, and full coverage, this is just light. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but we'll see how it wears. So I'm gonna apply some under eye concealer, and I'm gonna set my face with the Dermablend Loose Setting Powder, which is translucent, so will not give me any color coverage or mattify me. It is just gonna set my skin to make all of my powder products blend on top of it easier. So right now it is 10 a.m. and I will check back in with you guys in 4 hours for my first update. Hey guys, I'm back for my first check-in. It is 2 p.m. so I've had this foundation on for 4 hours and I wanted to give you all a couple updates. So in the claims it says that this foundation is not supposed to settle into lines, and I find that's actually true for me, which is really awesome because I do have some deep forehead wrinkles and most foundations tend to settle and crease in them, and I am not having that problem. I think my forehead actually looks very smooth and I'm really happy about that. So that's definitely a pro for this foundation. Another thing I wanted to mention is that this does oxidize, and it isn't something that necessarily oxidizes throughout the day. It actually just dries down darker than it is when you first apply it. So it does oxidize about 1 to 2 shades, but it oxidizes fairly quickly, which is fine. I mean, I hate when foundations oxidize, but I would rather it oxidize shortly after application than further throughout the day. So it's something that I think if I add in my hard candy, Glamouflage, and porcelain, lighten it a tiny bit, when it oxidizes, it should match me perfectly. And this is actually a decent shade besides the oxidizing. It's a little bit more peachy and I'm a little bit more yellow, but I do think it's actually fairly light, which I'm really happy with. And also, once I turned off the camera after my application, I got closer in the mirror to really look to see if there was a difference in the coverage from the sponge side to the brush side, and I do believe there is. On the sponge side with 2 layers, I say we get light coverage. On the brush side with 2 layers, I say we get light medium. I don't think it's enough to classify it as medium, but I do think it's a lot more than this, so light medium. And I came to that conclusion because it is covering up a little bit more freckles and redness, but not a ton. Also, I wanted to update you guys on how it's controlling my oil. So you all can probably see that I'm very shiny on my forehead, my nose, the sides of my nose, and on my chin, which is what I expected. This is a hydrating foundation, but I do have to say that I expected to be a lot more oily than I am at this point. So that's a little bit impressive. So I'm pretty happy with the way that my skin looks right now. We'll see how oily I look in another 4 hours when I update you guys again. So I will see you in a couple hours. Hey guys, I'm back for my second check-in. It is 6 p.m. so I've had this foundation on for 8 hours now. As you see, I did put my glasses on. My eyes were bothering me a bit, but this is what my skin looks like after 8 hours. I definitely don't think it has oxidized any more than it did right after my initial application, so I'm really happy about that. As you can see, I am certainly very greasy on the center of my forehead, my nose, and my chin. But what's really impressive is that I'm not dripping in oil, and also it hasn't broken up my makeup at all, which is really impressive. My foundation has worn off on my chin, but that's probably because of the way that I've been sitting. This is always the first place it goes, but I'm really impressed with the wear on this so far. So I am going to take 1 piece of toilet paper and blot my skin. Here's what the tissue looks like after I blotted. There's a tiny bit of color transfer, but no product really, and my skin looks really nice. So I'm really surprised with how well that this is actually worn. So I'm gonna have a text post at the end of the night once it's been 12 hours, and then I will see you guys tomorrow for the follow-up. Hey guys, I am back for the follow-up on the Neutrogena Hydra Boost Foundation. So today I will be inserting this product into my everyday routine so I can get a more accurate picture of how this might actually work for me on a typical day. As you can see, I do still have a ton of redness around my mouth where I am healing from my skin irritation. So again, hopefully you aren't too grossed out by that. I know it is unattractive, but I really needed to film this video for you guys. So starting with primer, I'll be using my Lorac Perfection Mattifying Face Primer all over, and then I will go into my large pores with my Smashbox Photo Finish Pore Minimizing Primer. So yesterday in my first impression, I tried applying this foundation with both a sponge and a brush, and I found that the brush gave more coverage, so I'm going to be using that today. Usually I end up with a sponge, but because this foundation gave so little coverage for me, a brush is definitely the way that I'm going to go. So here's what it looks like with one layer of foundation applied all over with a brush. I feel like we still have very light coverage. I can see a lot of redness and all of my freckles shining through. Here is one layer applied with a brush versus two layers applied with a brush. So here's what my skin looks like with two layers of foundation applied overall. So it definitely is buildable. I say right now we have light medium. It did cover up more redness and more freckles and evened out my skin tone overall, but I definitely don't feel like I have enough coverage to call it medium. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my under eye concealer and setting powder off camera and be back to show you guys my face powder application. So my under eye concealer and setting powder is all done. It's looking really bright, but once the rest of my makeup is on, it's going to even out. So what I've been using for my face powder for the last month or so is the Maybelline Super Stay Better Skin Powder in the shade number 10. Porcelain, which matches my skin tone pretty darn well, and I'm going to be applying that with this big fluffy Real Techniques powder brush to set my face, and I'm just going to apply this all over. This foundation definitely is dewy and it does not really dry down, so setting it for me is always a must, but definitely with this foundation to make sure that my cheek products blend nicer. So now my face is all set. My skin is looking a tad dark, but that's okay. I'm not really doing anything today except for being around the house. And right now it is almost 10 a.m. so I'm going to check back in with you guys about halfway throughout the day, and I will blot with a piece of toilet paper and touch up with a little bit of Rimmel Stay Matte powder whenever I find necessary, and I will give you guys all of that information when I do my update. Guys, I am back to give my final thoughts on this foundation. It is 4 p.m. so I've had this foundation on for 6 hours. I have not touched up yet at all, and I am definitely quite shiny on this inner part of my cheek, on my nose, my forehead, and my chin, but I wanted to leave it as is to show you how it looks. And I definitely think the primer and the powder helped this stay matte a little bit longer, maybe like an hour longer. But I did start to get oily around my nose about 3 hours, but that is pretty typical for me because my nose is extra oily. But I think I am very shiny all over, way greasier than I like to look, but it isn't too bad for the fact that this is a hydrating foundation. So really quickly, I'm just gonna blot my skin. So here's what it looks like after I blotted, but with no powder or anything, I think it looks pretty good. It didn't really take away any of the foundation away from my skin where I blotted, so that is great news. So for my final thoughts on this foundation, I think that this foundation is best for people with dry skin or people that have normal skin that like a more hydrating foundation, or maybe you tend to be a little bit more dry in the winter time. You might enjoy this. Also, this is good for someone that wants maximum light medium coverage. If you guys use a sponge to apply this, it's not happening. Like 2 layers is still gonna be barely there coverage. But if you use a brush with 2 layers, you're gonna get solid light medium coverage. And also this will oxidize. It didn't oxidize too bad, but I can definitely tell that it is a bit too dark for me. So you might wanna go a shade down, or you might want to put a lighter face powder on top to help it match your body a little bit better. I do think the applicator is kind of cool. I know a lot of people will be grossed out by this. I also like that this feels cooling on your skin, not tingly, but it feels kind of refreshing when you first apply it. This foundation isn't bad, but it is just not for me. It doesn't match my skin type or the kind of coverage that I like. It could have been a lot worse. I expected it to be a lot more greasy, so it did hold up better than I was expecting, but it just is not enough coverage for me. So this is not something that I enjoy. It is not something that I will be holding on to. I might end up giving this to my mom because she's a little bit darker than me, and she also really likes a light coverage, and she has dry skin. So this might be something perfect for my mom, so I'm happy that I can pass it on to her. But honestly, this just does not work for me, but I was still excited to try out another foundation. So if you guys have tried this foundation, I would love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. I've heard a decent amount of people like this, so I would love to know if you like it, if you don't, and what your skin type is and what your experience was with this foundation. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.